Welcome to Mind Over Matter, where we explore how our choices shape our minds, habits, and lives. Today's guest is Ryba, a screen time strategist, author, and coach who helps people reclaim focus and intention in a world dominated by digital distractions. From parents to professionals, Ruby shows us how mindful phone use can restore clarity, purpose, and even tolerance in our daily lives. Welcome to the show, Ruby. It's such an honor to have you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Mhm. So, Ruby, so many of us feel enslaved to our phones without even realizing it. What's the first step in becoming aware of our digital habits?
I think you already sort of mentioned that the key is that we're not aware of it, right? So I think the first step is noticing how and when it's affecting you, and then thinking about when do you want to use the phone as a tool in your life so that you can decide when it's part of your life instead of the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Right. And once awareness sets in, how do we avoid falling into guilt or shame over past habits?
I mean, I think awareness of how these devices are designed can help. I mean, shame doesn't get us anywhere. The past is in the past, and the only thing we can do is think about what do we want going forwards. So, thinking about exactly why you want to change your behavior, that's going to give you your why. Is it that you want to be more present with your family? Is it that you feel like it's a distraction from work? Is it that you feel like it is affecting your focus and mental capacities? Think about what you want in your life instead, and then you can actually feel empowered and proud of yourself for making those changes rather than mindlessly and on autopilot just going with what your phone prompts you with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's key. Because awareness without compassion often just creates stress instead of change.
Definitely.
Mhm. And your work emphasizes aligning phone use with personal values. How can someone identify if their screen time is serving their life or distracting from it?
That's a great question. So, what you want to think about is using your phone as a tool. So a couple things. What does it mean for something to be a tool? First, you don't have an emotional attachment to it. And second, it helps you get to whatever you're seeking. So phones can be extremely useful. You can respond to emails, you can take phone calls, it can help you with your work, you can connect with family. And so if the things that you are doing on your phone are aligned with your values, so let's say one of your values is deepening your relationships with family, you can call and FaceTime family worldwide, which is amazing. But if after the FaceTime, you then realize you've been scrolling on social media for an hour, that second part of your phone use is probably not so aligned with what you're doing. Um, so always kind of being aware of why you're using your phone and if it was your choice is a really good starting point. And then reminding yourself that, in this one life, we do have a finite amount of time, and thinking about how much of that time do you want to spend scrolling or doing other things. If you get rid of the scrolling, you have time to pursue your interests and to pursue joy and work and rest. So when you start to think about the opportunity cost, it can feel very urgent.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%. And do you find that people often discover surprising misalignments between their intentions and habits?
I think so. Yeah, I think with your phone, it's just really designed to suck you in. And I don't really know what value scrolling for a couple hours would be aligned with. So for most people, that in and of itself is a misalignment. People might say that they are really focused on their health, but they're scrolling at nighttime, which affects their sleep, which affects their health and longevity. People might say that their value is work and productivity, and yet they are at the beck and call of the notifications. So for the most part, I think if you are not aware and intentional, your phone use will not be aligned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that gap between intention and action is so relatable. It's like realizing we are scrolling through life instead of living it.
Totally. Exactly.
And willpower can only take us so far. What strategies work when self control alone isn't enough?
Yes, I definitely think we should not be relying on willpower. That's just not fair to ourselves, considering all the effort and energy and resources that are put into drawing us in. So it's really about designing your environment and your life, firstly, to reflect how you want to use your phone. So you can think about your physical setup and also your digital setup. So, in terms of your physical setup, more important than people may realize is, where do you charge your phone? Where do you keep your phone at night when you're sleeping? Where do you keep your phone when you're working? So for this podcast, for example, my phone is in another room because I don't want it to vibrate and then for my attention to wander because there's a vibration. That's called attention residue, where even though my brain is coming back to our conversation, I might have thoughts like, oh, was that a text? Oh, was that an email? What's happening? What's coming? And then it's harder for me to focus. So same with sleep. Where does your phone go? So my book goes into all the specifics of this actually. And being really intentional about your home setup, your work setup is very helpful. So that's the first thing, is physical setup. Then there's also your screen configuration, your phone configuration. So which apps do you allow notifications for? So most people don't turn off notifications. You download an app and then you start getting more notifications, and you download another app and you get more notifications. But it really only takes a minute or two to go into settings and turn off the notifications that you don't need. You usually don't need notifications from weather or news or a lot of random shopping or social media apps. So deleting those. And then for the ones that you do need notifications for, even within the notifications that you keep on, you can consider, which notifications serve me. Do I need the lock screen and the banner and the badge? So for me, for example, I have my text message like lock screen notifications on, because if my phone is locked and I have a text coming in, sure. If I don't currently have it on a focus mode, I'll see it. But I have my badge off. So the badge, the little red circle that tells you the number of notifications, the number of texts, the number of emails, those cause a lot of anxiety in people because we as humans want to remedy them and get rid of them, resolve them. So having badges off, if you know that you're going to leave an email unread, but that red circle is going to bother you, you can turn badges off. Let's see, for phone configuration, I also highly recommend taking advantage of focus modes. So when you're working, you can have it on a work focus mode where only important phone calls, let's say if you have an aging parent, then you might want to have it so that their phone number can always get through to you. Same with when you're sleeping or different parts of your life. So notifications, focus modes, those are really the big ones for phone configuration. So the digital environment and the physical environment that you set up can really eliminate a lot of need for willpower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's brilliant. Like changing the context is often more sustainable than relying on willpower alone.
Yeah, I don't really believe in willpower. I think if you're trying to do something with willpower, it's over. A lot of people say they don't keep snacks that they love in their house, right? Because if you know that those snacks are there, you're going to eat them. Whereas if they're not there, you won't. It's really that simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And also, curated feeds are shaping how we see the world, sometimes making us less tolerant. How can mindful digital habits counterattack this effect?
That's a great question. I think it's basically impossible to not let your thoughts be altered by some of this very strategic content. And the best thing to do is to minimize it as much as possible, and also to make sure that you are interacting with real people about these things. So if you are consuming hours of political content, for example, daily, and then not speaking to anyone about it, you are likely in a very, very tiny echo chamber where you're getting fed the same information over and over again, without any context from different perspectives or different voices, or whether this information is even factual in the first place. So I think my number one advice for this sort of thing, and it doesn't have to be politics, it can be related to so many different sorts of spaces, beauty and fashion. Teenage girls are very, very susceptible when it comes to body image and appearance. Minimizing the content, because that is very curated and edited and targeted, and trying to increase engaging with actual human beings about these topics of interest can really help you.
Yeah, makes sense. And are there practical ways to create a more balanced, empathetic online experience? Like the usual experiences that make us less tolerant towards stuff? The curated feeds, like they shape how we're seeing the world, right? So,
Right.
are there more practical ways to create a more balanced and empathetic online experience?
I mean, I guess the awareness that the content is very targeted is probably useful. It's very easy to get sucked into what you're looking at and think that it is fact. And so taking a step away and remembering that whatever is on there is indeed very edited, it was staged, all those things can help you to remember that it's not reality. But I think besides that mental awareness, I mean, there's not much we can do to change the algorithm or change the fact that ads can target us based on our demographics, like our zip code or our gender or who else we follow. So in terms of what is appearing on our screens, in our feeds, that's harder to control.
Yeah, that's such an important point. Like our devices can either limit our perspective or expand it, depending on how we engage.
Yeah, that's a great point.
hmm And for busy parents, high performing professionals, or anyone feeling overwhelmed by notifications, what's one daily practice to reclaim focus and energy?
I think thinking intentionally about when your phone enters your day is a really great way to kick things off. So most people have their phones on their bedside tables and use their phones as their alarms. So I highly recommend just getting a different alarm clock. You can get one for as cheap as the price of a cup of coffee. So you have an alarm clock. So now you don't need your phone on your bedside table. And then you can think about, where does the phone enter the scene? You know, think about, when is the first time you actually need your phone versus when you want to, or it would just feel like scrolling on it. So if you charge your phone in the bathroom and you go brush your teeth the first thing in the morning, that means that you're going to be on your phone a couple minutes after you wake up. Or maybe you don't need it until you get downstairs and you're in the kitchen. So thinking really intentionally about when it enters the scene and having as much phone-free time in the morning to let you gather your thoughts and just be yourself, I think is a really powerful way to start your day, and then sets you up really well for the rest of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And how do we make this sustainable without turning it into another source of stress?
I think staying aligned with your why. Why am I doing this? So reducing your phone use should not be a should. It should not be, oh, I should use my phone less. I mean, you probably should, but the question is, why do you want to? Under the should must be a want. I want to use my phone less because, what are you adding to your life? So instead of focusing on the fact that you want to use your phone less, I think it's really important to focus on what you want to make time for. Is it that you want to make time to exercise every day because you want to be healthy and strong when your kids are older and when your grandkids are born? Or is it that you want to spend more time, you want to spend less time working and being more efficient so that you can spend time with your family and friends? Thinking about the why and what it would cost you, rather than telling yourself that you shouldn't be on your phone. So this sort of thing is also used in dieting. There's a really big difference in success for people when they're thinking about, I can't eat fries, I can't eat sweets, I can't eat sugar, versus let me add vegetables, let me add chicken and tofu, whatever. So thinking about what you're adding to life instead of what you're subtracting can make a really big difference psychologically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that balance between discipline and gentleness is where real transformation happens.
Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that our lives are not constant, and so our habits aren't going to be constant either. When you are going through stressful or challenging times, if you're traveling, if you're grieving, if you're moving, these are going to affect your routines and your phone use might change. And instead of blaming and shaming yourself, it's really important to give yourself grace in these periods and remember that you can restart these great habits just as quickly as they disintegrated. They will come and go. And being aware of that can be really helpful. And remembering that it does not reflect on you, but it more has to do with the circumstances that you currently find yourself in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I totally agree. So thank you so much, Ruby, for reminding us that technology isn't the enemy. Mindless habits are. And to our listeners, approach your devices with intention, reclaim your focus, and let every scroll reflect your values, not just your impulses.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. And if any of your listeners are interested in following my work, they can find me at howtostopscrolling.com, where they can sign up for my email newsletter and also get updates on my upcoming book, which will be out in March of 2026.
Thank you so much, Ruby. This was amazing.